I'm Kate McKay, and welcome back to Survive to Thrive. Today, I am very excited to introduce Alison. Alison, welcome.
Thank you, Kate.
I'm so
Great to
glad to
be
have
here.
you here. So
Thank
as I
you.
usually do, I will just read your bio real quick. I put my glasses on to do this. This is my little ritual. So Alison Dwyer, Master's in Education, is an educator, nonprofit manager, and homeschooling mom who is on a mission to help students of all ages reach their learning potentials through study skills and methods that really work. I'll put her information also at the end of the show notes as well. So anyone who wants any information can reach her there. She also is the author of a book, Rise Above the Middle, which provides 12 actionable steps that your middle school or beyond, or anybody, listen, we're all students in life right now. So, and that's in the book too. And we'll also be providing that in the show notes. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you.
How
Great
are
to be here.
you managing? So we are on May 1st, 2020, and I know Alison, quick backstory. We're both in self-publishing school, Author Advantage. So I had the privilege of sitting next to her for a couple days in a conference that we did in Los Angeles a few months ago.
That was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
So how are you managing? How are things in Kentucky?
Things are going fairly well. It's our little area is harder hit than some of the areas in Kentucky with the COVID-19. So we still have all the social distancing and jobs disrupted. And as far as my children go, they were doing online education anyway, so it hasn't really changed their school very much. But we still feel that things are odd.
Yeah, it's very odd, right? I know, it's crazy. So the reason, a big reason why I started this podcast is because I just feel like, man, I know so many cool people that are impassioned to really make change and impact. And the reason why I was thinking you would be such a wonderful addition is because I talk to a lot of people, and one of my best friends is a teacher, and they are struggling with implementing this online learning. It's not that. It's staying at home and doing school at home thing, because a lot of the schools aren't built for obviously an online program necessarily, right? So I'm just so curious, how do you see this based on your experience? What do you think that the impact will be on this shift and how we're functioning right now in education?
You know, I'm not the expert in this. I really am wondering the same thing.
Right.
I know that lots of students are supposed to be doing school from home, but in the lower income areas, they don't have access to the electronics, the computers and the internet in the same way as other communities. So I'm not really sure how that's going to play out. And I have a son who will be heading off to college in the fall. And I'm wondering, will he be going to college in the fall, or will he be doing college from his room upstairs
Right.
online? So I'm not really sure. But I do think that as mixed up as this time is, that parents can take the time now to work with their children on study skills. Because lots of times during the school year, you just feel like, well, you don't have time to brush up on some of those skills. And you're so busy getting the homework done that's due each night that you don't really focus on strategies that could help the students perform better in school and to learn more.
So you know what I want to, I'm hearing this and it's like making me almost like be sick because in my belly, because I grew up I'm one of 9 children. Okay. So there was no time for my parents to help us learn any skills. I'm not talking about they were too busy with my mother with making food, honestly, and with my dad with, bringing as much money as he could working for nonprofit to be able to care for us. And so I don't feel that I ever learned those skills, Alison. And if I was in a position that I had young children at home, I would be in deep doo-doo. And this is why this book to me is so important, because how can we teach something we were never taught, Alison?
Well, I didn't really learn study skills when I was growing up either. I don't think they really focused on that. And when I went to college, I wanted to major in education and minor in business. But the courses were held at such a time where I had to choose and I couldn't do both. So I went ahead and chose education, and they said, here, instead of doing the business courses, you can get certified in study skills. And at first I thought, that sounds really silly. Why would I want to do that? But I fell in love with it. And
You
I think
did?
yeah, I
What did
did.
you, well, tell me, what did you love about it? Did you, like, I'm so curious about that, because you never know what lights you up. Meanwhile, you're like, study skills. What the hell
I
is
know.
that, right?
I thought
So
I felt like they were putting me in home economics or
I
something. And I'm like,
know.
I
Well,
don't
that's
want
what I'm
this.
thinking. So what about, so clearly someone saw something, a potential in you that would be good. What about it lit you up?
Well, what about it lit me up was that as I studied how to help students learn, I realized if I had known this, I would have even done better in college.
Wow.
And the strategies that they taught seemed to work well, but then, and I taught for several years in schools teaching this study skills to students. But you always kind of wonder, well, whose idea is this really? Is this just, does it really work or doesn't it? And you can see how some things work, but you're not sure exactly how it does. And then my son, when he was 14, had a stroke. He was playing and he fell and he hit his head and he had an aneurysm and we almost lost him. And he
So
lost all the
sorry.
movement. Thanks. He's doing great now. And he lost all the movement down the left side of his body. And I had always been interested in reading about the brain and how it works, but I really started reading about the brain when he had his stroke. And I came across this book called Make It Stick, and it explained how it is that our brains learn and how the processes that we take in, whatever it is that the strategies we use, how the brain uses that to help us remember and to recall what we need to recall for school or for whatever purpose in life. And so as I was reading through this book, I thought, oh, I see, because I saw the strategies that I taught the students, and I could very clearly see, based on neuroscience, which strategies worked and why, and which ones wouldn't really work and why. And that excited me. So I started teaching that to my son and then to my daughter. And I thought, you know what, I bet these strategies could really help students. And students aren't going to sit down and read a 350-page book or know how to translate that. So I decided to put together 12 of the study strategies that they could use and detail it and take them through step by step. So it's a book for either parents or teachers or students. And I made it short enough that kids wouldn't be, put off by the size.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And you know what I love about this is that what you've done is created a system of success for students so that they can, this is the system, these are the steps you have to take. And I think that a lot of what my coaching work is with people is you got to embrace the system. Systems are sexy, right? I know, oh, come on, Katie. I remember a coach here and a coach, I'm like, sexy? Come on now. But really, if you understand that what a system does, it gives you parameters around your brilliance. Because you may not think you have a way of approaching something, but you absolutely do. It's just automatic. So
Right.
I would go speak at a conference when I built my company, because I had a gold company that turned out to be multi-million-dollar, right? Stay-at-home mom, theater degree. I don't know what the hell I was doing, hope and a prayer. So anyway, I would go and speak about entrepreneurship and building a business, and people would come up to me and they'd be like, that's awesome and everything what you talk about, but how do you look like you do at age 50? And I'm like, what? I don't know. Like, what do I look like? I just didn't have an awareness that my physique and the way I presented was anything but my methodology of how I functioned and kept myself in the peace. So what I realized from that was like, damn, if people keep asking me about that, it's my obligation to write out the system. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, which is, mine was Living Sexy Fit, and yours is the Rise Above the Middle, the 12 steps. So I would love it if you would share some tips, because I'm having a feeling that this is a business book waiting to happen, honestly. I think that we're going to be working on you creating a business book on this, but yeah, so talk to like any of them. I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Well, the study strategies, the way they're broken down, you could pick any one of them. You could choose it and start in on whatever you find that you really like, that speaks to you, that's your favorite idea. So you don't have to do it in any particular order. I suggest that you start with what is called self-quizzing with flashcards, because that might be the easiest of the strategies to do. When I first talked to my children about flashcards, they didn't want to hear it. They felt like it was extra work. Why would they want to spend extra time? And I said, well, you're studying by writing it down. You're writing down the question and the answer, or the vocabulary word and its definition. But what's different about how I have you do it and how neuroscientists say to do it is that instead of just flashing through the cards and you read a card and you guess at it and you turn it over, lots of times I know myself, when I used to use flashcards, I would kind of fudge it and I would, not really know the answer, but I'd turn it over and I'd say, oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, right.
And then I wouldn't go through it again.
I get this. I get this.
Yeah. So
we pump fake ourselves.
That's right. So I say you write it down, you put the question facing up, and you write down the answer, and then you turn the card over and you see if it matches. And if it does, you know it. And if it doesn't, then you put it to the bottom of the pile. And neuroscientists say that the writing component is so important, that you write that answer down and it really gets into your mind.
I couldn't agree more. I honestly, in my writing process, I always free write. And if you saw how messy my notes are, it's embarrassing. And so I've gotten over having to have things look pretty.
Yes.
Right? Because I think that's a lot of things. Oh, if we're writing something, it has to be like, look
right. Right.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
And lots of times I'll have my children write on a whiteboard, because that's way more fun than writing on paper. Or if you write on paper, use a marker or something that makes it more entertaining than just pencil and paper.
Yes.
But I also, one of the downfalls that students run into is a false sense of knowing. So they study by just reading their notes over and over again, or reading the book. And when you look at it so frequently on your in your notebook, you think that you know it because it's so familiar. And then you sit down in the test to take the test and realize, oh no, I know the answer is on that second page near the top, written in orange, but I can't tell you what it says.
Oh.
That's a false sense of knowing. And so that's self-quizzing breaks that cycle.
Well, that's super helpful. I think that's super, super helpful, because everyone has that feeling, viewers, how many times you've been sat down and test and go, oh yeah, I know this. And you're like, what?
Right.
And so what is the portal? So the portal into really knowing, which is, I think, what we're talking about, it requires discernment, and it requires diligence. And what else?
Well, it also requires spacing. So if this idea of drilling over and over and over again for, an hour at a time, that's not really how the brain works. So you need to run through it a few times. And then one reason, and I talk about planning out your studies, because really what would be best is if you had a month or two before you had to know this material, because you want to let a week or so go to forget. You want your brain almost to forget what it is you studied.
Wow.
And then the act of retrieving the information, the brain loves it. The brain, you know how you talk about using weights and how powerful that is for the body to use weights? Well, the brain likes weights too. And
Mm-hmm.
its weights are the retrieving, the act of pulling that information out of your brain. And the harder it is to pull that out, the better you learn the material and the more lasting that memory is going to be. So eventually you will get so that you do recall it very quickly. But at first, if you have to struggle with it, that's actually really good. So
Mm.
I think that, students get really frustrated because learning is hard. And
Mm-hmm.
my message for them would be, neuroscientists are saying that that is actually very good. If you have to struggle and you have to work hard to learn something, then that means that your brain, when it does learn it, it's going to belong to it. It will have it and it will be able to use that information.
So it's almost like the people who, because I wasn't one of those people, I had to work so damn hard for like B's. I had to work my ass off. I'm just not naturally school smart, because I just love the learning process. So I'm one of those people that just reads and reads and reads and reads, just because I get pleasure from just the sensation of words. Yeah. But how do we teach grit and learning? Because I think that what you're saying is that how do we reprogram hard? Because right now, like, let's just say May 1st, as I said, 2020, we have kids at home. They've been farmed at school. Like, this is your area where you're going to work, this and that. They're having to give themselves their own parameters around their learning in many ways. Their parents are trying, right? Teachers are trying. But how would you tap into that? What would be your suggestions?
So my suggestion for that is, you don't want to work real hard if you don't know that it's going to bring you success. It's very
Mm,
frustrating to study hard and do poorly on a test, and you feel like, you know what, I'm not really very good at this. This isn't really what I want to do. I'm not really into education and studying, and because all this hard work, it doesn't pay off for me. And I think that's where students get frustrated. Whereas if you work hard at something, if you think of something that you've done in the past, even if it's not something educational, but something that you just loved and you worked really hard at it and you did well and you achieved something great. You painted a beautiful picture, or you built a fence, or you achieve something in a goal and exercise that you wanted, you feel great, you feel empowered, and you want to go do it again. So one of the reasons why I wrote this book on the study strategies that are based in neuroscience is that these are strategies that actually really work with the brain. So you can be guaranteed that if you use these strategies, your brain is going to love it. This is like food for your brain,
oh,
these
that's
strategies.
wonderful. That's a wonderful image. So it's nurturing and feeding your brain
Right.
by applying these strategies, which is going to accelerate your success. And obviously, that's going to translate into all areas of your life.
Right. And it's hard work, but your brain loves that hard work. And I
Mm.
think that students even love hard work as long as they know it's going to pay off well.
How do you incentivize, teach people whose maybe their frontal cortex isn't all that well developed, we're saying delay gratification, but how do you incentivize learning? Is there a skill or a strategy that you use to help with that process?
Um, well, it is, but it has to do more with just, I know what my children enjoy
Mm-hmm.
or what my students would enjoy. And so I suppose you'd say I bribed them to do the flashcards at first.
No, but that's okay.
But I knew that, if you do these flashcards, if you sit down and you write them out, and I would only make them start with like 10 or 15,
Sure.
and you write out these flashcards and you practice this the way this book shows you to do it, or the way I tell you to do this, then, you get 15 minutes on your iPad, or you get to go outside and play, or you get to do, something, whatever it is that they really enjoy doing.
Right. So you
And,
put
or
in parameters around it.
right, or we'll once you do this, then we'll play that game of Monopoly that you want to play, or that kind of thing.
Right.
And what I found was that, yes, at first I have to create the incentive, but
Sure.
then I remember so clearly the day my daughter came to me, and she had this classical studies class that she did not enjoy. And she came to me and she said, I got 100 on this quiz. And she was so excited. And she knew it was because of the flashcards. And
Wow.
so then that became her incentive once she started seeing the results. And she
Oh,
didn't always get 100, but she does much, much better now because of that strategy.
and what a difference in talk about growing self-esteem.
Yes.
Like that's a huge
Right.
self-esteem booster because what I find what I see a lot in my coaching with younger people is that oftentimes what was happening is they were looking for adults to tell them what to do because a lot of
Right.
parents they overprogram their kids in many ways, right? And so and incentivizing it all the time and not giving them the tips that they can depend on themselves to apply the strategies to feel that. So it's
Right.
almost like a rite of passage that you're talking about, which is nurture, nurture, nurture. This is the reward. This is the
Right.
reward. And then all of a sudden, like you described that story of your daughter, like, I mean, you'll never forget that, nor will she, and nor will her soul, because she
Right.
realized that she followed a formula that actually led to her success. That, Allison, guaranteed that's going to follow her through her whole life. Guaranteed. That's
I'm sure
huge.
it will.
It's
Well, and
really cool.
I had to go through a big learning curve when my son went to junior high because the teachers kept saying, you're being too controlling. You need to let him, figure out how all this works. And my thought was, yes, teachers say this, but they don't teach the child how to manage all this. It's like all
Yeah.
of a sudden they go from elementary school where they have all this nurturing and this help and the teachers send home the schedule to the parents and the parents know what the homework is, and to junior high where there's nothing. It's just like they're on
Oh,
their own. You don't even know what their homework is. You don't know if they're sinking or swimming or
no.
anything, and they don't have these strategies. And
Critical years, middle school.
that they are. And so that's what I say in this book, that this is a perfect time for you to learn these strategies, fifth through eighth grade, where your grades aren't counting towards college, and you can practice the strategies and figure out, fine tune them for yourself and how they work best for you.
Well, they're life skills.
They
I mean,
are.
literally, they're life skills. Because how much better are going to be your intimate relationships if you can live through some frustration and always looking for creative ways in order to have deeper conversations? I mean, how is it going to be you're able to communicate with employers and employees
Right.
as you move through that? And I think it probably also increases the level of the frustration tolerance for
Yes.
people if they're given some structure, because that's oftentimes what happens, particularly with boys, as you know, is that they get to that frustration level and then it's, I just can't do it.
No, they just quit very
Quit,
quickly.
like
And
legit.
but if they work through these strategies that are here in the book, they will realize that, oh, I can be successul with this.
Right.
This
It's
is stuff.
huge. So
Yeah.
what are you seeing? I know you said when I initially asked that you don't have the, you know, the research maybe backing on it, but what is your sense on how this time is going to change the education? I mean, what are your concerns, I guess? I mean, clearly, both you and I look at this also too from a socioeconomic standpoint, that clearly communities where kids are home, they may not have food, their parents may not even be there to provide them support. You know, that's clearly my concern, but like, what are those tips and strategies, if any, from your mommy heart, as what you could say to any parents or people that are advocates of children who are listening?
I just think that this is a difficult time when the students are home and they're trying to learn the material that they would have learned in school. And I know that's not always easy for parents. Some of the classes are taught so differently than they were when we were younger. And I know I'm a lot older. I'm not, the age of a younger parent right now. So maybe they have more of an understanding of that than I might have, with some of the new ways that they teach math and the different subjects. However, I just think that, well, I don't just think, I know that study strategies are so important and that kids aren't really taught them in school. And one of the best gifts you can give your children during these times when they're at home and you have a little bit more time with them is to sit down with them and show them how to work through these strategies. And
I think,
they're not going to feel like doing it. They're going to moan and groan and, tell you that, oh, they don't want to do it, and, just make you feel maybe a little miserable as a
yes,
parent.
right. We know this. No one else does it like this. This is not the way they taught us, right? But
Right.
but I think that this goes back to that whole idea, like visioning, like how do you, it's as a parent or as an educator, knowing that your commitment to live through what is hard in the communication with your child is going to pay off in the midterm and in the long run
Right.
for both of you.
And I think it's a time to, I don't see anything wrong with saying, if you help me out by learning this strategy, I would be very happy to do something for you and with you, like play a game together or just do something fun together, or you can have time to have fun with your friends or, online.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't see anything wrong with that. I said, I knew that I was going to be working on this book. And so part of some of the strategies that I was using, I went to my daughter, who's a middle school student, and I said, please, this would be a huge favor for me if you would be my research. I would be able to do my research using you. And she was so glad to do
Good.
it.
That's
Well, glad to
awesome.
help me, not always glad to do the strategies,
Right.
but glad to help me.
Right.
But they,
Exactly.
but I knew they would help her because they helped all the students that I helped through the years
Right.
study. It's just that now I had the scientific proof behind it and why.
Right.
It's
Well, I
hard to always
love
know.
that. So
Yeah,
what I love about it, Allison, is the way you're describing is like clearly you had a passion and an interest and a big aha about, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I learn this? This is really cool stuff. And then having the research behind it and being able to put something together that is as benefits that you're seeing it as a mom and you're seeing it in the results in students. It's freaking,
right.
so that's like a really cool manifestation. So I love that and congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what we're thinking about now, and just in closing, because be respectful of your time, but how are you seeing this program? Because I love it that you took really a more complicated material and streamlined it, because this is the time for that. Do you see yourself presenting to schools, or how do you see using this material in a broader base as you expand your platform?
Well, I've been working on tutorial sessions that I am recording and going to post to my Facebook page as well as to my website. And I'm also reaching out to some people who've emailed me who have read the book and talking with them and working with their children. So it's just through online trainings,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll get out and be able to do in-person trainings, but at least right now I can do online.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. We'll go at that, because this is the time. As Coach Kate, to be like, come on, get going, get that
Right,
done. I'd
right.
love to help you promote that, honestly, because I just think,
Thank you.
as I said, it's like I didn't have those skills. And so why wouldn't we? Right now is the perfect opportunity to help people become lifelong learners. Because my daughter, she's in college, and she's like, well, I'm not going to go back in the fall if she's in industrial design. She's like, I'm not going to go back if we're not being able to be in the studios, right? So we have a whole bunch of kids that are in limbo with whether
Right.
school is going to happen or what school is going to be like. But if we can implement and imprint study skills and how to approach and break down and keep that brain working,
Right.
that's a guaranteed success in all areas of life.
Yes, it is. The study skills really impact all areas, even as you go out into the workforce.
I think I have to fervently work on these on the side now. I'm feeling a little bit like, because my process is so messy. I'm thinking actually that I can apply them. So I think I'm gonna have to get on Amazon and buy that damn book.
Well,
So
I've had to work at these, and I wish I had had the strategies when I was in school, because I struggled.
yeah.
But I've had people comment, older people, older than you, comment of, oh, I need to go and brush up on that. Maybe it will help me keep my memory.
Right, exactly. I'm seeing multiple products out of this, Allison. That's all there is to it. I'm seeing money signs after this. So, Allison, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me today. This information is invaluable, and I can't wait to actually get my hands. I don't know how I did, why I don't have it, but I will be ordering that. And everything will be available in the show notes so people can find you and this really invaluable information.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me, Kate. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Super fun. Well, thank you so much, viewers and people who are listening to Survive to Thrive. I'm Kate McKay, and we will see you again. Take good care.
Bye.